Hello, this is Mark Montgomery. I'm founder and CEO of Kyield. I thought it would be a good idea today to try a little experiment here with our whiteboard and explaining to folks what Kyield Enterprise is for those who are just beginning the process of considering our pilot program. We have quite a number of organizations at various stages, and we're presenting currently to quite a few, including some of the largest in the world. So this is just a brief on what Kyield Enterprise is, and technically, in my view, it's a neural network. And similar to a beehive and pod of whales and those sorts of things that communicate with wireless, and that's increasingly the case with an enterprise. But in our case, we're an artificial neural network. We're not a biological system. And importantly, we're an adaptive neural network. So much like biological systems in that regard, however, we're not waiting for several generations of evolution to take place, because if you do that in the modern hyper-competitive environment, chances are, even if you're a national government anymore, you may not be around, or you may be in a much weaker position if you are. So we need to be adaptive, and we need to do it in near real time. This is very important because we worked a long time, as have many others, on creating an adaptive neural network and providing the architecture and structure and intellectual property that was quite expensive to develop to create this. So we're a specific type, and we're going to call this commonly known as a semantic enterprise system. And you'll see in a minute why that's true. Basically, the data standards that we embrace are universal rather than proprietary, which really matters when it comes to especially total cost of ownership and keeping those costs down for integration, etc. So here we're going to be looking at the patented system that is my patent, was awarded last year. And it's a rare AI systems patent. And it's holistic in nature, based on nearly 2 decades of R&D. And at the top of the architecture is the CKO engine. It's very important. It's essentially a type of MDM, master data management, in that it sets your governance for the entire organization, manages security, manages permissions throughout the structured environment, data structure for the entire organization. And it is in that regard the most important part of the system, because everything else depends on it. Regulatory issues, etc., are set with that. And here we have the business unit module, which is just as it sounds for the business unit. It is very similar to the CKO engine in some respects. The primary difference is it can be for a large business unit or a subsidiary company, a large government agency. However, the MDM is one that sets the security parameters and allow permissions, including who has access to this in the business unit module, who's going to run it. It can be set on automated, but most of the value, or at least the optimized value, will require semi-automatic and semi-automated control, so that you can set and constantly adapt to changing conditions. So and here we have the team module, which is actually quite a bit different, because that goes down to things like projects and in teams that are smaller, and this works within the individual business unit module, and also in some cases they're out here working with partners. And these manage the relationships through the CKO. These little N's are neurons, because those are the embedded intelligence in the neural network that we're after, whether or not it's for the expedited discoveries or whether it's crisis prevention. These neurons, and they're firing, At different times, you can't always predict where and when, but you can predict that under the right circumstances, when you set up the right architecture, you're going to get more firing than if you don't. And in some cases, we can predict that you'll have very few firing if you do things wrong from a management consulting perspective. So, okay, down here we have the, really what it comes down to is that robotics, despite the fear and all the hype out there by some companies, is still fairly limited in what they do when it comes to especially knowledge generation. Pretty good at storing and memorizing and analytics, but all of that depends on humans in your organization. So even if you are a high-tech company, your algorithms and your automation depends on knowledge workers. If you're any other kind of organization, even let's say a retail environment where you have individual salespeople in the stores or hospitality workers, their knowledge of what's going on with the customers is not captured through point of sale systems and just financial and accounting systems alone. So what we do is extend to the entire organization through the mobile workforce, and you might be surprised, even in a traditional company, a traditional organization, how important it is to extend to every worker in the organization, because they have access that nobody else does. Sometimes the CEO of the organization is the last to know in hindsight, especially in things like bankruptcy and those sorts of things. So this is what basically our patented structure is this, and over here we're going to do a little bit in terms of what a little bit of technology that we use. Resource descriptive framework is a W3C standard that we embrace. OWL is one of the languages that we use for ontologies and data structure. HTML5 is, of course, the mobile standard for delivering to the mobile workforce. And over here, we're going to a couple of the primary applications: BI, which is business intelligence, and analytics. Those are, often belong in the same sentence because you have advanced analytics includes predictive and those sorts of things. But for example, we were interviewed in the Forrester Research Report 2012 January, Future of BI, and interviewed me and named Kyield in that report, and correctly said that these new generation of systems have the capacity to turn the old relationships on its head. And one of the reasons is because we do extend, and we can extend, to the mobile workforce. Traditionally, BI was reliant on a handful of business analysts who knew the query languages and those sorts of things, often in IT or sometimes not. And there would be a backlog, especially as big data has increased and it's become more known. And the individual workers often had to rely and wait on business analysts to run queries and get back to them. I recently saw where one case, and a big pharma waited for over a year to get a return of an important query to the organization. Obviously, that's not good enough today. In a hyper-competitive, any kind of organization, you're going to be in trouble if you have to wait a year. So we extended the mobile workforce, and it's self-managed. So for the vast majority of common queries, actually some are set in advance, and that they should be concerned with. It's based on their profile. So we have automated systems that are out there doing queries in advance. Rather than them going and doing the research, we're actually delivering to them in a way that it really manages the overload. They can get as high quality. Actually, the patented system covers the quality and quantity of data in the individual modules, each one of these modules. So these are the two of the things that we provide here. And it's important is that it's predictive. We provide in Kyield Enterprise a basic baseline predictive algorithms so that regardless of what it is, we provide the base foundation for the mathematics to be able to predict certain things and look for specifically certain things. And one of those things that we are specifically looking for in our value added is crisis prevention. That's one of my personal motivations, and I've studied most of the major human-caused crises. And so that's one of the things built into the system. In terms of value proposition, that's the number one, because you can save lives and you can save enormous amounts of money. Let's say, the 9/11, if you could even mitigate that, you're talking trillions of dollars and many thousands of lives. But even in the case of let's say, the oil spill in the Gulf, tens of billions of dollars, massive disruption in human pain and that could be avoided. And in fact, in most cases, and our research shows that with Kyield Enterprise installed, we would be able to prevent the majority of human-caused crises. So over here, number 2 is expedited discovery. That's very important too. Let's say if you're a big pharma looking to cure the next disease, or have a biotech company looking for new methods, those sorts of things. If you're a national lab, but even, for example, if your government's looking for new models and ways to save money and improve performance to the citizens, all kinds of different things can be this used for that increases innovation. So over here we have, well, what's this sort of arrow going to? Well, of course, it's going to the mission of each entity. So our entire system is adaptive by design, 2 decades of R&D, and the reason for that is the mission of each entity. It's tailored to the profile on the automated, but it also has semi-automated so that you can change your profile and change your consumption and production of data to a certain degree, even your production. It is all based on what is your mission, what is your goals and objectives. So in most cases, I can tell you just from many years of studying this, but also recent discussions, total cost of ownership is big on the minds of most organizations today. Folks like CIOs and CFOs, they want to drive the total cost of ownership down. Well, with our data standards and the way this is structured, we are removing, and like Forrester suggests, we're turning the old relationships on its head. We're actually managing those relationships in a much different way, so that there's less extortion and less waiting on others to do things for us. And then up here, just about all organizations, regardless of type, are looking to increase their return on investment on their systems. This is not, even if you're the most charitable organization in the world, especially then you want to free up as much cash so that you can do good with it and other things and reduce your costs while increasing your performance and your enterprise systems. That's what Kyield Enterprise does as an adaptive neural network, a certain type of adaptive neural network, which is a semantic enterprise system that is continuously adaptive. And this is our patented system, which is a rare AI systems patent that's holistic in nature, that manages the whole structured data for the entire organization. So that gives you a quick rundown in not too pretty artwork, but hopefully will help understand what Kyield Enterprise is.